What's going on, guys? My name's Mitch Robs, and today we're going to be starting to learn. So we're going to be continuing our trapping series, and today we're going to be learning about the different types of traps, right? And more specifically, we're going to be learning about the floor traps. So there are three different types of traps in this game. There's going to be floor traps that go on the floor. There's going to be ceiling traps that go on the ceiling above. And then there's going to be wall traps. Today we're going to be focusing on the floor traps, and I'm going to give you guys a general overview of what each trap does and kind of the uses for them, and as well as the perks I recommend on them. So if you enjoy this kind of content, leave a like on the video and consider subscribing to my channel, as well as considering joining my Discord where there's a lot of helpful people, and just being an awesome bro and leaving a comment. But alright, let's get on to learning about floor traps. So let's start by talking about what types of floor traps there are, right? So I have all of the floor traps displayed except for one, and I'll show you guys why I don't have that displayed just at the second. But the first one we're going to go over is the wooden floor spike. So that is a wooden floor spike right there. That is a retractable floor spike. A flame floor grill trap, or flame grill floor trap. An anti-air trap. A tar pit. A floor launcher. A healing pad. A floor freeze trap. And then a campfire. Alright, so that's all 9 floor traps that we're going to have. So let's start by talking about the wooden floor spikes. Wooden floor spikes are a trap that consist of minimal consistent damage. They snare a husk for 1.5 to 2 tiles, so that just means they slow them down for about 30% of their walking speed. So they're going to be spending longer in your tunnels. You're going to have higher durability on these than most traps, because each husk that walks over it's going to have take up 1 durability. It does not contribute to the CC counter, which is huge if you're thinking about endurance or something where your crowd control counter really matters. And you're gonna see that this takes 5 planks, 1 duct tape, and 2 twine to craft. So it's really, I wouldn't say expensive, but it's really kind of middle ground cheap wise. That's all relatively easy to get pretty quickly. And to expand upon that, the CC counter in this game basically means that any husk that's pushed, stunned, or danced needs to be, can only be, have that happen 5 times. So what that means is traps that do take up a part of the CC counter are really super important. But as you guys can see, the husks, as soon as they touch the floor trap, do slow down right here. And they take damage about once every second. As you'll see, it doesn't do a lot of damage, and a couple husks are getting through. Now let's talk about the retractable floor spikes. So these traps are going to have high burst damage. It's going to have a really slow reload, so it's best used in kind of a timeout room situation or to kill smashers at the end of a tunnel. It's going to have a high durability because it can hit multiple husks, and it has a slow reload, so you're going to get a lot of uses out of it, and it's going to kill a lot of things. One thing to note is this does have a knockback to it, an impact-based knockback, so it is going to contribute to your CC counter if it does knock back a husk. It won't do it every single time because it has to break the impact guard of a husk, but just keep that in note. It also takes 9 nuts and bolts, 2 rough ore, and 2 mechanical parts to craft. It is a very, very good trap, especially in burst situations where you have to kill a husk quick. And that's where you're going to see it used a lot. However, you can put a reload speed on it and get away with having it in a tunnel if you stagger your wooden floor spikes and your retractable floor spikes, so you get the slowing effect of the wooden floor spike, and then put a retractable floor spike down. But as we can see in the video, a husk come over it has a really slow reload time, but it basically one-shots any husk that goes over top of it. So that's the power of it, but like I said, it has a slow reload time, so just using them in a row, like I see a lot of people in pubs do, not a very good strategy, as you can see. The flame floor grill trap, or flame grill floor trap, I always get those mixed up. Not necessarily because it's I'm dumb or anything, but it's just a tongue twister. Flame grill floor trap. So a flame floor grill trap is, or flame grill floor trap, or however you want to pronounce it, is the next trap that we have. So it's going to have an affliction burst damage, so it's going to have a comparable damage to a retractable floor spike. It's just going to have 6 or 7 ticks of affliction damage that it's going to provide towards it. and you'll see what I'm talking about in the video later that we show, but it's going to have a really slow reload time, it's going to have a high durability, it's going to hit multiple husks, and it is going to contribute to the CC counter because it does have an impact-based knockback. So this is going to take 9 rough ores to craft, 2 quartz, and 2 mineral powder. This is pretty comparable to a retractable floor spike if you're dealing with nature enemies. So a retractable floor spike's locked to physical, flame grill floor trap is locked to fire. So you don't want to necessarily use this into water husks, because simply you'd be doing a quarter of the damage. So that's where its main use comes into. If you're facing pure nature husks, this is going to be one of your best floor traps to actually kill things with high burst damage. So as you guys can see, the Smasher's going to walk over it. He's going to hit by ticks of damage every so often, and there's going to be 6 of them without effect duration and 7 with. Anti-air traps. Anti-airs are what we're talking about next, and they're a little bit different to the rest of the traps on this list. Anti-airs shoot enemy projectiles, so anything from thrown lava balls to thrown husks to thrown bones from the pitchers all get hit by this trap. It has a slow reload, but it has a pretty big range, and it'll take in one shot pretty much anything except for a husk, like a husk thrown through the air. It has high durability, and it does hit that one projectile. This doesn't contribute to the CC counter, so that's really cool. And it's going to cost, I think, 6 nuts and bolts, if I'm not correct. It'll be in this video. 6 nuts and bolts, 3 planks, and 1 quartz. An interesting thing of note, to counteract 1 lobber or flinger, you place 2 of these down with maximum reload speed, and we'll see that in the clip in a second, and you can effectively counter a lobber. So shields are going to generally be the better option, but as you can see, we are a lobber with just casually placing 2 of these down with max reload speed. Let's talk about the tar pits next. So the next one we're talking about is a tar pit. Tar pits are interesting because their whole entire goal of them is you keep a husk stuck in place on the trap. So they're gonna keep husks stuck there for 2.5 seconds once they go onto it. They're gonna have a really slow reload because tar pits have a catch where if you shoot them while a husk is on it, it lights on fire, right? But there's no reload time if there's no fire. So it has a really slow reload unless you don't shoot it, and then it has no reload. It's gonna have really low durability though, so each husk that takes a step onto that tar pit and gets stuck takes 1 durability. So it might have 100 uses on a tar pit, but that goes by really, really quickly. This does contribute to the CC counter, and that really is a shame for the tar pit because that really nerfs it. But this also takes 7 rough ore, 2 quartz, and 2 mechanical parts to craft. As you'll see, I'll show off the shooting mechanic, and the damage by it's alright, but realistically, I'm never going to shoot a tar pit, so I recommend you put all durability on these. But as you can see, the husk just kind of gets stuck in it, and then 2.5 seconds later, they can move on to the next one and get stuck in it again. And if I shoot it, it bursts up in flames. Next, let's talk about the floor launchers. Floor launchers do exactly what they sound like. They launch everything but smashers. I know it's a shame we don't launch smashers anymore into the air, but we launch husks into the air with floor launchers. Now you can hit them off a ramp or whatever, but the main thing to take note with floor launchers is the impact and knockback perk, or specifically how many you have on it, really is the main factor on the height of your floor launcher launches, or how far you're going to launch them. This does have high durability and can launch multiple husks at a time, right? This does contribute to the CC counter, which kind of sucks, but I mean, c'est la vie. It is going to have 6 planks to craft, 4 rough ore, and 2 mineral powder. This doesn't really do damage. This doesn't do really anything special like that, but what it does is allows you to displace husks where you don't want them. So for example, you can launch them off of a cliff with this if you hit them off of like a stair piece or a ramp piece. So you can do a lot of cool things like that with floor launchers. But just using them in a row like this, not very recommended, but it does show off that the husks do get sent up high. So when you're picking your perks for floor launchers, really take into account how far you want to launch the husks for your impact perks. And next, let's talk about the healing pad. The next trap in our arsenal, the healing pad, isn't a damaging trap. Clearly by the name, it heals you. But it's going to provide a lot of burst healing, right? So you're going to walk over the bacon, you're going to eat the bacon, and it's going to give you a lot of health. Like almost full health with one bacon. It's going to have a really long reload time. I think 12 seconds is the time if you don't have any reload speeds on it. It's going to have a relatively low durability, but honestly, I use these in situations where like it's like, oh shit, I need a lot of health now type of thing. This should go without saying, it doesn't contribute to the crowd control counter, because it really doesn't do anything to husks, but I thought I'd put that out there. And as well as it's gonna use 2 fibrous herbs, 4 flowers, and 1 bacon. Now, you'll see a lot of people in MSK use these because it's by far the best thing to get all your health back in an instant and a very quick thing. You just throw down a healing pad and you just have full health again. Now, I'm not saying this is only useful in MSK because you can plop one of these down, you start getting low on health, you go run over it, but in the Mythic Storm King fight. But yeah, as you guys can see, I went to full health right there. The floor freeze trap is our next trap, and I think it's one of my favorite traps in the game, just because it's very, very, very powerful. So with a floor freeze trap, you freeze a husk for 4 seconds. This is an impact based stun, so if you don't break their impact threshold, you don't freeze them. But with effect duration, it stuns them for 5 seconds. During that 5 seconds or 4 seconds, husks take 25% more damage. So if a trap hits them, it'll do 25% more damage while they're frozen. It has high durability, but it does contribute to the crowd control counter, so you have to play with that fact in mind. With this trap, it's going to cost 7 rough ore, 2 quartz, and 2 mineral powder to craft it. The cool thing about floor freeze traps is there's impact and knockback actually does matter on it, even though it's really not that noticeable with the naked eye. But you can do cool things, like if you place them right. All of these traps are directional. You can kind of infinitely stun lock huskies and stuff like that, and you can do really cool things with them. So I'm going to recommend putting all durability to reload effect duration on them. There are different circumstances where you can use different perks, but these are just the ones I'm suggesting for general use. The last floor trap we need to talk about is the Cozy Campfire. This provides some consistent healing to us, so you're getting constantly healed by it. It's going to have a low reload time, and it's going to heal in a 3x3 grid, so you don't necessarily have to be like walking over bacon like the heal pad. You can kind of just sit near the Cozy Campfire and do other things as well. It's going to have some high durability, but it's constantly going, so it's going to run out without like player input. So if you just put it down and forget about it, it's going to run out. This does not contribute to the CC counter because it's doing nothing to the husks, but to craft this, it's going to use 9 planks, 2 flowers, and 2 twine. This is definitely a thing of choice, right? Because this can stack up to 2 times the Cozy Campfire. So if you put 2 Cozy Campfires next to each other and you stand in between them, you can get healed by both. The only thing I'm going to say about that is burst healing wise, it's not going to be as effective as something like a heal pad, but it is going to get you up to full health really quickly. So as we can see here, we're just testing out to see if the range is 3x3. It says it under the trap, but you can never be sure. But basically, it heals you up to full relatively quickly in a 3x3 grid. So just think 1.5 tiles around the, or just like a tile and a half around the campfire. Now that we've introduced all the traps, we're going to start putting them into categories. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to separate them into crowd control and non-crowd control traps. So these contribute to the 5 crowd control traps. So the tar pit, the retractable floor spike, the flame grill floor trap, the floor launcher, and the floor freeze trap. All of these will contribute to the 5 counters you get on one husk or smasher. So you kind of have to utilize these very, very smartly to try not to use up your counter. For example, later on we'll learn about how propanes drop their propane when hit by a sound wall. You'll learn that like all these counters add up, so you have to use those appropriately. So the ones that aren't affected are the wooden floor spikes, the Cozy Campfire, the heal pad, and the anti-air trap. If you notice only one damaging trap isn't affected by this crowd control, and that happens to be one that slows the husks and leaves them longer in our tunnel, as well as they take damage. So the wooden floor spike is going to be relatively important as a floor trap because of this, and that's really cool. So as an extra little guide, we're going to be talking about how these traps are used, right? So these aren't mutually exclusive, these categories. So we're going to be talking about the damage traps first, and this is the retractable floor spikes. These provide burst damage. We have flame grill floor traps. These are affliction burst damage, and they do roughly about the same thing. And the wooden floor spikes are the slowing traps. Now this is meant so that you guys can quickly reference this for when you're supposed to be using these traps in the tunnel. Now you're going to experience a lot of this stuff, and you're going to find your own uses for them, but this is just general guidelines. So these 3 traps are going to... basically, 2 of them are going to be burst and one's going to be consistent damage, but it's going to be really low consistent damage. Then we're going to have our utility traps. These are going to be our tar pit. Our tar pit stops husks right in their trap, and you can shoot it for damage, but granted, I'm never doing that. We have our floor launcher. This launches husks into the air so we can displace them. We have our floor freeze trap, which is going to freeze a husk into place and provide extra damage output from other traps. We're going to have wooden flow spikes. These are going to slow down the husks. They're going to walk slower through our tunnels, and they're going to provide a little bit of damage. So you'll see that overlaps with our damaging traps, because it is damaging the husks, even if minimally. And we're going to have our anti-air traps, which are going to pew-pew projectiles, and they're just going to shoot them out of the sky. Which technically it damages thrown husks, but I use these more towards utility and taking out space rocks and taking out lobber throws, more so than I do shooting flinger husks. And then we're also going to have our healing husk. We're going to have a healing pad. This is just going to be a lot of healing really consistently. Or not consistently, it's just going to be a lot of healing all at once, so that you can get up to full health. And it has a really long reload time. We're going to have our cozy campfire, and it's going to be really consistent healing. That is going to have a good long duration, but you don't have to actively do anything for the trap, you just have to stand around it. So now that we've gone over the damaging traps of the floor traps, we're going to go over a little bit of their use in tunnels. So I set up a very drastic scenario, so we're going to be using every single one of these. So we're going to use our slowing effect of our wooden floor spikes. We're going to be using our floor launcher to launch husks off of a ramp and into a jail. The jail is going to have a flame grill trap, which is going to apply a flame as they're going back, and it'll have that affliction. They'll hit a retractable floor spike if they don't get hit by the floor flame grill trap. And then if they get past all of this, they're going to get frozen by a floor freeze trap to be able to be shot. And if they don't, there's a tar pit here to catch them. Alright, let's see how it works out. Now the purpose of this next clip I'm showing is that tunnel in action, and the whole reason we do this is just because I want to show off what each trap does, right? We can clearly see that we're getting the ticks of the wooden floor spike in the background slowing the husks. The husks that hit the floor launcher are getting sent back into the jail, where they're going to die to the damaging burst damage traps. And then we have our floor freeze trap freezing them, and our tar pit keeping them stuck in place. And granted, this isn't the most efficient tunnel, but it's just showing the traps off. And that should serve as a really good introduction into what the floor traps do and how they can be utilized. We'll go more into how to take these into account with all the floors and walls and other traps and ceiling traps. But for right now, this should just be a good introduction to the floor traps. If you guys enjoyed this series, let me know. This is just starting from a basic fundamental level of what everything does, and we're gonna expand upon that really quickly. So I do hope you guys enjoy this kind of content. If you did like this video and learned something, please leave a like. Comment down below what kind of tunnels you guys want me to go over later on, as this is gonna ramp up pretty quickly as soon as we go over the walls and the ceiling traps and start applying our basic principles. So thank you guys for watching. Peace.